Hello and welcome back to the Roads of Elden Ring. Today we're doing 3 of the main remaining bosses of the Shadow Keep. Namely, if we have a look at the map, first is going to be Mesmer. I'm already standing in front of the Dark Chamber entrance, apparently it's called. Then we have, I think he's called Commander Gaius, the dude riding on a boar that we could already see, like we could already see his model from this side of Grace, because we can basically look through the door, and so we saw him very faintly in the back of the arena over here somewhere. And then finally we have the Sunflower over here, the guardian of the Shadow Tree. Probably going to do Mesmer, Sunflower, and Gaius, so we can have a look at this area that Gaius is basically protecting as well, and then we will end the episode in front of the Shadow Tree, or as close as we can get to the Shadow Tree, I guess. Starting off with Mesmer. Mesmer, probably the most important, he's the most important boss out of all of these 3 bosses, because this one is mandatory. The other 2 you can technically skip if you want to finish the DLC. But honestly, you haven't finished the DLC if you haven't beaten these 2 bosses, right? But technically you could play through the entire game without fighting the Sunflower and without fighting Commander Gaius over here. But you have to fight Mesmer, so let's start with him. We're going to have a look at the boss themselves, some of the mechanics. Kinda hard if they have a second phase to, well, in case of Mesmer. Mesmer has a second phase, or a transformation phase. Kinda hard to have a look at his design while he's rapidly attacking. But at first we can do it. If there are summons, we're going to summon the summons and have a look what they're all about, why they're here. And yeah, we're going to have a look at the cutscenes as well, if there are any. Well, only Mesmer has a cutscene, I think. And I need to remember to take screenshots, so... so let's start with Mesmer.
Mongrel intruder. That tarnished, it seemeth. Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of life? Yet, my purpose standeth unchanged. Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death. In the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
Nice, and he lost aggro. Alright. What I will do is I will turn down the volume quite a bit so I can actually talk. This cutscene is awesome. At the beginning, right? The beginning is, in my opinion, the coolest part, where everything is dark. All of a sudden, all the candles start to light up. Probably because Mesmer has control over fire, that's why they can light up. But then the tension is building with the music as well, or with the sound effects, if I can call it music, with the sound effects. And then when the camera turns around your character, all of a sudden, like the sound effect drop, and you have the close-up shot at the snake looking at your face, which is one of my favorite parts, honestly. And he truly sounded surprised, right? He's surprised that the player character is tarnished. But before the cutscene started, we could already see that there is a summon sign here. And who else but the Hornsent, who wanted to avenge his family. And also, I guess, his entire people, to an extent. He wants to get rid of America and all she stands for, basically. All her follower. And Mesmer, of course, as well. He's a son of America. So it's only natural that we can find him here. There are different outcomes with the Hornsent. A note that the Hornsent can be summoned inside the boss arena, which means that Mesmer is not getting extra HP when you summon him, similar to Egon. Rule of thumb is if the summon sign is outside of the arena, you're buffing the boss as well. If the summon sign is inside the arena, you're getting a freebie. But there are, I think, two outcomes. One is we ignore the summon sign and kill Mesmer. And the other one is we summon him and kill Mesmer together with him, I guess. I think it doesn't matter if he dies or not. And depending on what you choose, you're getting a different kind of story, not completely different. What can happen basically is he invades you, or he aids, what's her name, Leda, in defeating you. If you kill Mesmer, then basically you took his kill, you took his satisfaction, and he will try to kill you together with Leda. And if you help him kill Mesmer, then at some point he will invade you. For some reason. Because I think he thinks you're on the... Technically, you're on America's side, and he wants to get rid of you. Doesn't really matter what you pick. Well, for the sakes of this video, I of course will summon him here. I want to see him fight, but also for the sake of another video, I want to... let's see. Let's just summon him. But first, let's have a look at Mesmer. While we still can, while he's not moving. Yeah, good. I was kind of afraid that I would throw a furnace pot at him. Let's remove that thing. Let's have a look at him. In particular, first of all, his face. Let's get a close-up on his face. One eye is shut, similar to Melina. And the other eye is an iris of grace. Something that we found last episode, I think. Iris of grace. An iris blessed with an incantation of the auditory. Place on the eye of another to grant them the light of grace as a fleeting blessing. Can also be used to receive the blessing of an equipped great rune, whatever. Either that's this, like either it's a Iris of Grace. Yeah, looks kind of fitting. Or probably, but not really, is some kind of sore seal or scar seal or whatever. Looks also fairly similar to that. An eye engraved with an Elden rune. But it's kind of hard to see because his eyelid is in front of that, right? Like his eyelid still cuts the iris in half, so it's kind of hard to see the upper part. Maybe we will know more once the cutscene starts. But then we also have this adorable snake over here. There should be... yeah, there's another part of the snake. And what we've seen in... well, what you can see in another video, again, I kind of mix up these two channels, like Bonfire VN or something like that, and Zully the Witch. They make similar videos where they have a look at, for example, certain creatures. And one of them had a look at Mesmer and removed the cloth, like the cloak, where you could actually see that the snake goes through Mesmer's body at a few locations, maybe 1 or 2 locations. So it's literally going through him. The question now only is if it's intended that the snake goes through him, or if they made it that way because the player will never see that, so you can actually put the snake just through his body. So this one wraps around his leg and then going into the back. Kind of hard to see, and I think this is one of the points where it goes through his body. Like on the side here. Oh, can we actually? No, that's his arm, right? It doesn't go through him there. Eh. Of course, we can have a look at the armor and the weaponry and stuff once we obtain it. But it's also kind of nice that weird looking that the snake, or snakes, that they have wings, which looks weird. But whatever. So let's start the fight and let's have a look at what he can actually do to the player. Or in that case, to the Horn's End.
Foe of my beloved people, in vengeance for the flames, my blade I wield.
So let's go Horn's End. He won't trigger, right? Yeah. So what I will do... sound effects down, music 1 down, even though the music is good. Voice up, if there's any more dialogue. I want to hear the dialogue a bit more clearer. And let's start the fight. Of course, a lot of fire-based attacks. Mix of fire and physical damage, as you can expect. He has a physical weapon, but he can also wield fire. And the Horn's End is just casting stuff. Well, not technically casting, he's using an item. But it won't go off. Let's have a look at the eye.
I will not suffer. A lord devoid of light. No, mother. Forgive me.
Iris or Scarcia? Scar or Sorcia, I think. Oh, maybe let's have a look at the iris later. But this should be a seal. Well, it's sealing something. And the curse takes place. Or takes over, I guess.
Soon tarnished.
Pale snake.
Thou be taken in the jaws of the abyssal serpent, shorn of light.
I still wonder why his other eye is shut, or where it is. Okay, horn scent. Oh, he will attack us. The fuck? But his skin now looks pale, diseased with scabs, and like just looks raw. Of course the snake is pale. And he now got more of these attacks. And it's very hard to see when he does the transformation, where he transforms into this snake, basically. Because it disappears so often. What the fuck is Hornson doing? Well, it's kind of nice that he's doing something over there, because then I have more time. But if I remember correctly, the snake that he summons and the snake that he transforms into has eyes on the body, I think, if it was correct. It's very hard to see. But he's now using far less fire attacks and more physical attacks. Doesn't mean that he's not using fire. Just less of them. Oh yeah, there you could see the eyes fairly clearly.
Marka, a curse upon thee. Accursed Mesmer, my clan's suffering, their pain, all that they felt. Do you understand now? Your ugliness. Ah!
But at least he survived. Not Mesmer though. So let's see. How do we get... Oh, there he is.
We meet again, I see, comrade in arms, upon his end. Did you see Mesmer's face? 'Twas sublime. A very tangle of snakes. To think he dared call us savages, when he himself was most base of all.
I mean, what you did to the shamans was also very savage, to be fair.
To say the least, I am to you indebted, yet unquenched remains revenge. The death of Mesmer was merely the start. Now comes the Piper to collect from Marika, her offspring, and all the Earth Tree's denizens, in vengeance for the flames. My blade I wield. If Miquella's redemption soothes the ache that throbs within, demanding blessed vengeance, then I wish not to be by him redeemed. If Miquella's redemption soothes the ache that throbs within, demanding blessed vengeance, then I wish not to be by him redeemed.
Yeah. He doesn't want to get rid of that vengeance, that hatred. He wants to avenge. But now he basically told us that we are also part of his mark. Maybe not just yet. I mean, he's still indebted, right? He's still in debt. We helped him, clearly. But soon enough he will forget that and he will invade us. The day will come. But honestly, the fight is amazing. Amazing, fun fight. Also kind of hard. At least the first few times. Depends on your build as well. Boss arena itself, nothing really special. But I wanted to have a look at the iris once again. Is it an iris of grace, or can it be an iris of grace, is the question. It's kind of unclear. Maybe it's both. If you have a look at this, you can also see the arc, or the arch. Kinda. But it looked more like a seal, like a sore or scar seal, whatever. Look more like these kind of things. Maybe a scar seal. And it would make more sense as well for it to be a seal. Right, it's sealing away the serpent. It's not just giving him grace. I mean, he was also graceless, right? Or tarnished. Is he? Is the eye the only thing that's giving him grace? The eye given to him by Marika, or was he grace given before that? Kinda unsure. And what's up with his other eye? Why is that one closed? Again, similar to what's her name? Similar to Melena's eye. Her eye is also shut. But I mean, they're brother and sister, right? But now, let's have a look at another very fun boss fight. I mean, maybe not that fun, but... While Mesmer kind of reminded me of... what's his name in Bloodborne in the woods, right? These two bosses that we will face, or that we faced, like Mesmer in this one, kind of have a Bloodborne vibe to them. Mesmer, because of the snake. If you remember or know Bloodborne, then if you go into the woods, you have a lot of snakes there. Like the dudes with the snakes coming out of their head, the snake balls, bigger and smaller snake balls, and the one not invader, but the hunter that at some point appears with the whistle that summons a biting snake underneath them. Mesmer's design is definitely inspired by that. I mean, it was one of the previous games, so sure. But now this one, in my opinion, leans a bit more into the cosmic horror aspect of Bloodborne, where you're fighting basically a sentient sunflower. And look at that water, or liquid here. It's like blackish golden liquid. I just assume that these are the roots of the shadow tree, or parts of the roots. But here we're fighting a sentient sunflower. And that kind of reminds me of the Bloodborne DLC in the clock tower. Is it called the clock tower? Right before you fight Lady Maria. You're fighting the living failure, I think they're called. And you basically have a giant sunflower in the middle that they probably used for some communion stuff, whatever. Don't know anymore what the significance of sunflowers was in Bloodborne. But this one also has a fun gimmick to it. First of all, again, let's have a look. And I mean, let's increase the music to this one so you can listen to it in the background. But let's have a look at the sunflower first. I just assume that these glowing lights are basically the eyes. And it looks all dead. And I guess that's the curse of the shadow sunflowers. Let's actually have a look at the shadow sunflower item that we get in the tier, the tarnished golden sunflower, I think it's called, right? We don't have any other sunflower here. The fuck is that? Stone, okay, whatever. Facing the earth tree, facing the earth tree. No, not facing the earth tree. Where's... I don't want something facing the earth tree. I want something facing the shadow tree. Or is it that? There, shadow sunflower. Looks dead. A large flower that blooms facing the shadow tree. These flowers veiled in shadow and covered in impenetrable thorns are suffused with profound holiness, much akin to the shadow tree itself. So this is a more unpleasant version of a sunflower. Looks all dead, or at least dying, has some color in it still, but it's thorny, impenetrable thorny. So it should be very, very hard, at least the stem. Comparing that to a normal sunflower, the quote-unquote normal sunflower, golden sunflower that grows facing the earth tree material, at the foot of the earth tree, they remain their color along with a powerful holy essence, I mean, yeah. In stark contrast to the normal sunflowers that we quote unquote normal. But this is basically a reflection of all of the shadow sunflowers. And now that we've seen impenetrable thorns, this is the spell that we found in the Shadow Keep. Sorcery of those who abandoned the practice of incantations after devout faith rewarded them with only despair. The caster wounds their own flesh using impenetrable thorns grown from the shadow tree, which then sprout from the earth. The image of the twisted shadow tree is an edict. Denounce their ways, do them harm, for they have abandoned us. Well, that's basically the reflection. So let's see what this thing can do. This one deals holy and physical damage. And it's fairly obvious which attacks. Maybe it's not that obvious which attacks deal holy damage. This one is fairly obvious. Although the black spots on the spell suggest that they also deal partly physical damage. With this one I'm unsure. The impenetrable thorns spell that the sunflower does. Is it pure holy damage? Is it pure physical damage, or a mix out of both? I think it's a mix. It certainly deals bleed build-up when you're getting hit by that, which is the dangerous part, because it can build up very, very fast. This thing has a slight twist to it. For some reason we can perform a critical strike here, which is very odd. We just killed that thing. Right? So now what? Why is the music not stopping? Oh. Okay, that was weird. Usually it would erupt out of the ground, but I guess it's unaggroed again. Get your ass over here. The fuck? It would look like that, right. And now while it's getting more and more not necessarily tired, it doesn't look tired to me, but the moveset slightly expands. At least at some point. And this one is kind of reminiscent of Dark Souls 3's Demon King, Old Demon King, whatever it's called, in the Demon Ruins. Where it has some, what's it called? Attacks of despair, of final breath attacks. Because once again, we can perform a critical attack, so it's not even over yet. We killed that thing the second time now, and I guess it again just spawns. Then once I attack it, it erupts. Yeah, there it is. Stay here, please. Yeah. Now the desperate attempts happen, where it exhausts itself, trying to get rid of us, desperately. I mean, I think it's called the Shadow Tree Guardian or something like that. Oh, Avatar, okay. Close enough. The music is also getting a bit more sad. As it's getting weaker and more desperate. I hope I don't kill it with this attack. I should attack the stem. Slowly. There's one more attack. Ah, okay, I have enough time. Yeah. Attacking the stem works. That's good. Let's get it low for the final desperation attempt. or desperate attack. Nope, that's not it. There's an extended version of that attack. Let's see it. How low do I need to beat you in order for you to unlock the final spell? Kinda a sad fight. Let's see if there is another version. This was 3 explosions. Let's see if it has more. Final one, come on. 3? 2, 3. 3 is the maximum. You fought well. But we're not really getting anything from that. Like, of course, we're getting the remembrance. We would get the remembrance, I guess. But there's no more path here. We are very close to the shadow tree here. And still very far away. Let's go to the edge of the arena. But I really like these quote-unquote sad fights, or more emotionally charged fights like this one. Because they bear a bit more weight than just a regular boss fight, or just a regular boss that says nothing, that has seemingly no emotions to them. And even though this was a sunflower, right, you could feel the desperation, and the music was reflecting that. You're not having that in many fights. In Mesmer's fight, we heard it through dialogue, not necessarily through his attacks in particular, and not through the music. But in this fight, the music got sadder. The attacks got more desperate. You could see that the sunflower got exhausted basically after every big explosion. And I mean the explosion itself, right? It's not as focused, and it's basically nuking, right? It wants to desperately get rid of the intruder. And when it notices that one explosion is not enough, it tries to really take everything, like use everything that it has in its arsenal without killing itself, basically. Because I guess, or I would assume, like, if it would explode more, then it would literally kill itself. As you can see, every time it explodes, the exhaustion kicks in. The head is hanging, like the limbs are, and it needs to regain its power again, or some of its strength. It's kind of reminiscent. Like, it's not the only fight that they've made that way. There are quite a few fights in the Soul series as a whole as well. Like, we can see it, for example, in the The first example that came to my mind was the old demon king lord whatever in Dark Souls 3 in the demon ruins, where I would like do the big attack and then basically just stood there exhausted, heavily breathing, and of course for some reason I just think of that now, the more emotionally driven fight is against Sif from Dark Souls 1, where if you get Sif low enough, the Great Wolf would limp around and the attacks got weak. And it's just fighting with desperation, or with heavy injury and desperation. So it's not necessarily the only emotionally charged fight. There are quite a few. But I guess we are having technically... like they're using this fight archetype, let's call it an archetype, more and more often, I feel like. Sure, we got Sif, maybe you could count Gwyn, but not really, because Gwyn is basically just hollow. Technically true King Elend from Demon, so like the slug thing, but not really. Maybe Phalanx, if you can count that, but that's not really the thing, right? Main Astraea, maybe. Like, they're doing that in Demon Souls quite a lot, but not to that extent. Of course, with Sif, could have had the cut part of Artorias' fight, also in Dark Souls 1. Can't remember if there was anything like that in Dark Souls 2. But Dark Souls 2 basically wasn't made by Miyazaki as a director, right? So that doesn't really count. It's, is there something like that in Bloodborne? I can't really remember that. Maybe Gehrman, but not really. Like, of course, sure, there are fights where the boss gets more stronger in, you could say, desperation, or they're just turning up the heat now, right? But in this DLC, they're doing that quite a few times, if I remember correctly. Plus the emotional part, of course. Not just the I'm exhausted after a big attack thingy, but emotionally charged fights in general. Like, we have technically Bale, but the emotional part there is basically Egon, and not Bale itself. Bale is not really conveying emotions, other than maybe anger, but dragons are a different breed, right? They're a bit different. Technically, the boss that we will fight over here, right, in the mansion, but the first phase, but not really, maybe. Then Mesmer to an extent, where he's going all out. He removes the seal to grant to gain the strength from his curse. What else? Sunflower, and then later on, even more later on, the NPC fight, which is my favorite kind of fight that we have, I think, in this area. Is it this one? I don't know. Somewhere over here. My favorite fight of them all. A fight that many people hate. But, and then technically also the fights in the cathedral or underneath the cathedral at some point. Now, enough talk. Let's fight the boss that got choked on by the people of the game, or by the people living in the game, not by the developers. But this, if I remember correctly, is an albinoric. And let's see if he can stand still. What the fuck is happening? Where are you going, sir? Sir, can you stop the boar? He has no legs. He's an albinoric. Somewhat similar to... not at all similar to... to Radahn. This, his albinoric legs could, like they died, because that's what apparently happens to albinorics' legs. And he's riding on a boar, and then Radahn, you have his legs tangling. Like he's destroying his feet by riding on that ridiculous... Can I catch up to this one, please? Alright, I have torrent here. Guys, please stop your boar, thank you. It's kind of hard to get a look on him if he's constantly running away, but you can see he has no legs. There are no legs left or right of the boar. But he's... honestly, he's maybe not that unsimilar to Radahn. Like, he got his mount, maybe due to a different reason. He has his gravity magic, not as strong as Radahn's of course, but nonetheless dangerous. This one can't really hold the stars, but strong enough. He can lift his boar if we are getting him into his second phase, that is, about killing him. Well, it's kind of unfortunate that we don't really see boars like this in the wild, because you would think, like, if he has tamed a boar like this, there should be many more of them, right? What is kind of cruel, or maybe they're born that way, well, not born, but they develop that way, is the tusks of the boar. It's kind of hard to see, but it's reinforced by metal at some parts. But then at the tip, you can see the tusks are split. Like, it's not just one what's it called? One part, but it's split, like, and I wonder if someone did that to the boar to increase the lethality of the tusks, or if this is what happens naturally. Look, he can lift his boar with the gravity magic. Isn't that impressive? Come on. What would be kind of cool if instead of having the boar, they had a falling star beast. I don't know, that would be kind of sick. But then the kind of unfortunate part would be that it would be canon that you can tame falling star beasts, even though they're supposed to be alien. But I don't know how I feel about an alien being tamed by anyone. But this is probably one of the more annoying fights. Not only because he dashes a lot, I mean the sunflower is dashing a lot as well, but because of the weird hitbox or multi-hit hitbox this one has. It's a very stamina intensive fight if you're not dodging correctly. But now enough of that. Weird. I got the remembrance of that one, but not of the sunflower. I probably should read the remembrances while we're at it, right? So let's start reading the Impaler remembrance. Let's see. Remembrance of Mesmer the Impaler, hewn into the shadow tree. A malevolent snake writhed within Mesmer, and so his very mother plucked out his eye and put in its place a seal of grace. Yet having done so, her fear compelled her to secret away her child within the realm of shadow, hidden away, keeping company with the original sin and a hatred that would not be confined. Well, snake and fire. And then we got the remembrance of the wild boar rider. Can you really call that a wild boar? If it's tamed? Whatever. Both were as elder brothers to the lion, and both were cursed from birth. In spite of, or perhaps because of this very reason, Gaius was both Mesmer's friend and the leader of his men. Both were as elder brothers to the line, so this also encompasses this also gives Mesmer some lore, because the lion should be Radahn, right? Kind of obvious. So, well, the wild boar rider, Commander Gaius, is cursed because, well, he's an albinoric. And now I wonder if every commander is albinoric of nature. That would explain why they are limping or have prosthetic legs. At least the one in the ice area fort there. Eclipse Fort or whatever it's called. So this also confirms that Radahn knows Mesmer, right? Both were as elder brothers to the line. Both. And both were cursed from birth. So Gaius was Mesmer's friend, and Mesmer and Gaius both were cursed, were elder brothers to the line. So Mesmer and Gaius are older than Radahn, I guess. Should be the confirmation here, right? But he still kind of got joked on. Because if we now keep going, let's keep going through this gate, basically what he's guarding, I guess. This useless thing, like, it's doing nothing really for us, at least. I mean, it's just feels just like a waste of material. It's just a sign, right? It's a gate, but not really a gate. Like, it's a golden gate, but that's it. But that's not the interesting part. We're going there in time, but there's a more interesting thing in here, because there's an albinoric riding on a wolf here, which is kind of odd. And this one has Gaius' griefs, so let's read what they say. Black iron greaves made for commander guys, a cruel joke, for he could not wear them. Riding atop the boar he called his other half, Guys was in fact a warrior of albinoric extraction. Cruel joke. I mean, sure, like, he wasn't necessarily made fun of by people, but he's a knight, he's a commander. He got... They gave him armor set. So what I'm wondering now is if people knew that he was of albinoric nature. Because what the game is telling me here with visual storytelling, he's of albinoric nature, or extraction, whatever they call it here. He got forged an armor set, but he was constantly on the boar, and because he's of albinoric nature, he has no legs, or his legs weren't functioning, probably falling off at some point. So he discarded the pants, or the lower half of the armor, like the greaves and all, and hid them maybe in the shack, protected by another albinoric, maybe his wife, possibly, or maybe not, whatever. Maybe they lived here in secrecy in the shack, because that kind of weird thing is that the shack looks burnt down or broken like that. Not necessarily, I know, it kind of looks burned. But now let's have a look at this gate over here. Just a monument, this serves no purpose at all. If we have a look at that thing, it's just rock. It's just made out of rock. You can't go in there, so it's not an actual building. It's just a monument. It's a structure that stands for something. And then we have basically the Lord, not the Lord vessel here. It's a shadow tree chalice catching the sap of the shadow tree, but not really, because it's still very far away. Like the sap is coming from... Kind of hard to see from this angle here. But the sap is coming from there, and that's still very, very far away, but I guess you can collect it from here as well. At least we're getting a bunch of shadow tree fragments, so this place is actually of significance for the player, because he's getting rewarded by a lot of shadow tree fragments. And if you want to make the game easier for yourself, then you should probably pick them up and use them. But even here we are very, very far away from the shadow tree. And it kind of looks even... For some reason it looks even further away from the shadow tree than from the position down there, from the Sunflower boss arena. That should be, if we ever look on the map, further away. It should be down... Should be down there. Is it this thing? Probably, right? But this doesn't really look closer. It looks still as far away. But whatever. So, 3 bosses in this small area. And still an hour of video. I guess there was a lot to look at and to somewhat analyze. I mean, I didn't really go full in depth with all of that stuff, but I think that's to be expected. I'm not going all out with that. It's kind of nice from here. But yeah, let's evaluate these bosses. I would say Mesmer is probably the best fight out of these three, and the most hyped one. The only weird thing is that from looking at all the trailers, you would expect, or at least I expected, that that Mesmer would play not necessarily a more major role, because his role was major in this DLC, but I would expected him to be a more end-gamey boss. Well, this is still just... This just felt like a mid-game boss, right? And I mean, it's a mid-game boss. Like, there's still a lot of stuff to cover. But from the footage that we've seen prior to the DLC release, they kind of got us with that, right? While Mikola is the main goal here, now we know that. The trailers and all of that stuff would, like, you would assume that Mesmer would have been the final bad boss that we had to beat, right? Instead of Mikola. But yeah, Sunflower is probably my next favorite fight out of these three. I'm not really a fan of Gaius. Because he felt more annoying to me all the time, fighting them. But all in all, they're still all pretty good. I wouldn't say like that Gaius is a bad fight. He's just the worst out of these three, I would say. Sunflower is pretty cool, especially what they did with the, like, they gave this thing emotions without, I mean, they used music, but without dialogue, which is always nice. I always appreciate that when the music and the actions of the boss themselves convey something, they're telling something. I don't really like that. Mesmer wasn't really telling anything, visually, of course, he was telling a lot, but he's not conveying any exhaustion. He's conveying maybe wrath, maybe some kind of disgust, a weird tarnished or whatever. At the start, it felt like he was bored with us, but then when we got him into the second phase, he actually thought like, oh shit, this dude is dangerous, like the player character is dangerous, holy shit, I need to go all out, otherwise I'm dying here. So he removed the seal, and he still, like, he said sorry to his mother, basically, to Marika. Sorry for removing the seal that you gave me, but I have to use that power now, otherwise I'm going to die. Not knowing that, I mean, I guess he was kind of knowing that Marika just abandoned him, but he wasn't really buying into that until the end. When he died, he cursed his mother. Finally, he accepted that he got abandoned, I think. At least it felt that way. Gaius is just there. There is no dialogue. He's just a regular basic boss, right? No dialogue, no big emotions in his phases, no emotion. Why am I talking about emotion? I'm talking about storytelling. There's no big storytelling going on. Like, good, you unlocked his second phase. Now he has a extended moveset, but the moveset is not really telling us anything new prior to the second phase, right? In phase 1, okay, he has gravity magic. In phase 2, okay, he has more gravity magic. That's it, right? At least the Sunflower told us, like, holy shit, it's fighting for its life, like, it's exhausting itself, it wants to get rid of us with the big explosion attacks, and then if you get them very, very low, the Sunflower, like, the most desperate attempt, like 3 explosions in a row, in the sense of, like, die, 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 finally die, please. It can't go on any longer. In that sense, right? It's really fighting for its life, but Mesmer, of course, as well, but Gaius? Just a regular boss fight. Similar to, like, basically every minor boss, Gaius felt like a minor boss, like a boss in a regular dungeon, right? No big storytelling going on there. Of course, gravity magic ties him to the lion, like Radahn, and maybe his location ties him to Mesmer and Mesmer's army, but that's it. Like, the fight itself is not telling us that much more. Nonetheless, a good fight. Level design, we can't really talk that much about level design because we just explored this piece here, so that's not much. It's just a path to a bunch of shadow tree fragments, which is a nice reward, I guess. I can analyze the arenas, I guess. It's just forested field, like, is it called? No, it's just an open field with a bunch of trees in them, right? It's not really a forest here. Just random overworld stuff, nothing major. Down in the roots, pretty cool arena, to be honest. I really like the gold to black contrast, and everything looks like it's dying, like the plants are dying, but actually they're not really dying. That's just part of the area, right? That's how the ecosystem here works. That's how it looks like. Everything is veiled in shadows and looking like it's dying, but it's not really dying. This is just how it looks like, the sunflowers and stuff, right? But look pretty cool. Like, this is probably one of my favorite arenas, color-wise. Mesmer's arena was very basic as well. Let's go back. The weird thing about the arena is the pit that is surrounding it, to be honest. What even is this called? Dark Chamber. What is he doing in here? Just sitting on the thingy and then lighting candles, I guess? But then you have this very dark pit, which brings out the fantastical feel. Like, imagine this room without this pit. It would look like something is missing, right? But now that we have this pit surrounding the arena, it looks a bit more extreme, a bit more fantasy-like, and the fact that you barely can see the ceiling. I mean, they could probably get away with it with just making the ceiling completely black. If we have a look here, we can see the shine from the stone coming through. Imagine this just pitch black, maybe with a much higher ceiling. They could get away with that as well, I feel like. Would be even more cooler or more mysterious. And then we have this fog in here, which is probably called, it's not fog, it's probably just the smoke from all the candles. It would probably suffocate down here. Because there's no more oxygen in this arena. Not death by Mesmer, death by... what's it called? CO2 or what is it? I don't know. Carbon dioxide. Is it called that in English? Whatever. Yeah. Where was I? Boss arena. I mean, maybe this looks the best. I don't know. Sunflower arena and this one are pretty cool in their own way. But yeah, let me know what you think about these bosses, which you absolutely like, and Maybe you absolutely despise one of them. The guy is probably my least favorite out of them, but still a decent boss fight in my opinion. Oh yeah, let me know what you think, and next episode we will go that path and finish the Cathedral of Manus Matter quest with Ymir. Hope you're looking forward to that, and I see you in the next one. Goodbye.